last panel of the day. It's an hour long. We've extended it because we know all you guys want to do is sit here and hear us talk for an hour. But more importantly, it's because we want to thank all the amazing creators that are on stage that create the content that we consume, but also, quite frankly, that are driving a change in the future of how we market in this industry. Celeste, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Well, thank you. That was an excellent job. What's up, everybody? Let me hear it for South by Southwest 2020. Yes. I know we're all so excited to be here and to be back outside, yes. I'm extremely thrilled to be able to host today's panel where we are going to be digging into a topic I'm sure you've all heard about because you're all educated queens and kings, right? It's called the Culture Vulture movement. So we're about to attack that head first, and we have an amazing group of panelists with us today, a group of content creators, groups of strategists. We have brand representation, and we're really going to talk about what it looks like from all of those unique perspectives to be and engage with Black creators. And at the end of the day, we're really going to talk about that money, okay? So to kick it off, I'm just going to have each of you kind of go around the circle real quick and give your brief introductions, if you wouldn't mind. Would you like to start, Ms. Morgan?
I think I must at this point. Can you guys hear me?
That one mic, you need to talk into louder.
You can have this one.
Yes,
Not very Yeah. Hello. Yeah, perfect. I'm Morgan, here with Group Black and all of these amazing creators and our next partner in Triller. Put simply, at Group Black, we're here building the largest collective of Black-owned media and diverse creators. And so my job there is really to champion the creators and make sure they get the money they deserve and the brand deals that they are very capable of making fire. No, it's too close.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Reese. I am a 4-time Olympian, 8-time world champion. I won gold in 2012 and won 2 silvers 2016, and the prior one from Tokyo. So I'm just here from content. I do fitness content, and I'm a brand ambassador also.
All right. My name is Dale Moss, former NFL athlete, have since transitioned into the entertainment space, also the creation space, now as a host and an actor. So I've been involved with Triller for a while. It's an amazing thing to be a part of, also to be a part of this collective of, just amazing individuals. So I'm excited about the panel, to have this conversation and just share kind of how I built life beyond sports and in a new space, but while still just maintaining who I am. So I think that's what we're all just going to have the conversation about.
Hi, everybody. My name's Candace Nikea, and I'm a manifestation coach and a content creator. I'm so excited to be here. I feel so inspired this whole weekend. Well, I've only been here one day, but it feels amazing to be here and see so many Black people thriving and being so successful, and it's been amazing, and everyone's so nice. I was telling you, everyone's so nice. I'm just so happy to be here, but thank you for being here to listen to us, so I'm excited.
Is this one on? Hello. Oh. Hi, everyone. I'm Lana Gregg, and I am the Senior Manager of Social Media and Influencers at NYX Cosmetics. I oversee all of our social platforms and influencer partnerships, and I am beyond excited to be here today and to connect in person for the first time in a very long time with many content creators. I'm just inspired and excited.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Whitley Porter, and I actually work at Triller as a brand strategy manager. What does that mean? I get to come up with really cool ideas all the time, actually. So it's very, very fun. And I work on the team that helps work with some of these amazing brands that we have here. And then we have the Assembly of Black Creators, which actually Bonin and Jasmine thought that up. And so it's really awesome that we get to create specific opportunities for Black creators to be able to work and partner and get paid by these brands. So it's really awesome to be here and kind of share a little bit about what we do and what we plan to do in the future.
Amazing. And before I dig into our panel here, I will introduce myself properly. I'm Celeste Hubbard-Breen. I'm president of Hecho Studios. We're a content and production studio based out of Los Angeles, a part of the 72 and Sunny family of businesses. But I myself am based out of Atlanta. I've lived there for 6 years now, and when I actually took on the role with Hecho, the first conversation was like, I'm not about to move. I lived in LA for 10 years. But the feedback actually from our collective within 72 was, we don't want you to move. We want you to stay in Atlanta, stay connected with the culture, stay connected with the creatives, the black creatives down there specifically, and let's continue to elevate and change the game. And we have the people here today who are doing just that. So I'd love to hear from our creators first, and just kind of maybe if either three of you would like to share, what are some of the, it's one thing to be a creator, but it's also another thing to be a branded content creator. So I'd love to hear about any of the experiences maybe that have gone very well for you that might stand out in your mind. Who are some of the brands or some of the instances where they got it right?
You want me to lead off? So, I feel very fortunate over the years. I've been able to work with some great companies. I've been able to be, very creative in my own right. And so my background is in video production and digital production beyond sports, and that's what I went to school for. And I've always wanted to be a storyteller, and that's what naturally kind of had me gravitate into the entertainment space, but also has dictated a lot of things that I just do in life, to enhance other people's stories. And I think the biggest thing with that is, and we're talking about black creators. For so long, I felt like I couldn't share my story. I felt like, how I grew up and, some of the things I experienced was either too much or just people wouldn't resonate or accept it. But, it's interesting where we're at now. And, some of the best experiences from working with brands are the ones who encouraged me to share that. The fitness and wellness space is really big for me, and I'll say Under Armour at the time, I was booked for a global campaign, and as just the talent, just to do the campaign. But I remember talking with their team and their creative director on the shoot, and I was like, hey, I would love to be able to be more involved, and if you do this again, if I can kind of help you curate and produce, your next campaign and shoot. And they're like, you know what? I might take you up on that offer. So they give me a call back. This is about a month later, and they actually even allow me to bring one of my good friends who's a super talented videographer. And I mean, long story short, we're in a remote location, and they said, hey, we've got one of our reps there, but this is your guys' thing. We know you know how to train. We know that you've been doing this for years, and we trust your judgment. And we just want you to be creative, and we're going to give you the tools and the resources and the finances to do it, and just do your thing. And we know that it's going to come out great. And for me, that was a huge, huge step because, it was the first time I asked or said, presented, I can do this, but not only saying I can, I want to do this. And they accepted it. And I think there's so many times that we're afraid or worried about losing something if we ask or demand, what we're capable of. And that was the moment where I did that for the first time. And since then, I produced stuff behind the scenes for, major brands around Super Bowl. And I've taken that creative approach, and it's been something, we talk about financial, in front of the lens, I was able to do well. I've been very fortunate from that standpoint. But being able to have a team and build it and collectively scale it, that's where it's made the biggest difference for me over the years. Beyond just being an individual brand, I've actually been able to build a business and now have numerous people who I work with consistently.
And I heard, closed mouths don't get fed. No. That's what my daddy almost said. So ask for what you want and maybe manifest it, if you will. Yeah. Go ahead.
Manifesting. Some of the best brands I've worked with are the ones that allow me to correlate my spirituality and my blackness with their brand. And recently I got to work with Unilever, and I led a workshop with Kelly Rowland. Hey. And it was so much fun, and I got to teach everyone about vision boards, and we got to make vision boards together. It was so much fun. Another brand that I love to work with is Toyota. They're amazing to work with, and they're just so inspiring, and I got to take one of their, what's the car? Toyota Corollas down the coast of California for 5 days straight. We did like a road trip for 5 days and stopped at different cities. That was really fun. Another brand that's really great is DSW. They are excellent. I love them. They allow you to be creative in every aspect with your shoes, obviously. But I also got to correlate that with spirituality, and they were so open to that. Any brand that allows you to be creative, like Dale was saying, and give you free range. So that means like you can be the creator, but of course, they can say if you're doing something wrong or not. But at the same time, you feel like you are creating something and you're inspiring other people and you're being yourself. And that's what I really like when I work with a brand, that they allow me to be who I am. And I don't feel like I'm changing myself or changing my beliefs or anything like that. But I'm best known on Instagram for daily affirmations, and any brand that allows me to have an affirmation with that brand is so much fun. I feel so fortunate to be able to do something like that. But yes, manifesting is so important when you're a creator, because you want to speak things into existence. You want your desires to be fulfilled, and you can do that. Your desires are there for a reason, and I've learned that in my journey, that everything that I desired is in my life and in my mind and in my heart because it's meant to be fulfilled. And it really is. When you're a creator, and it's easy to compare yourself to other people, compare your following, compare how your followers are correlating with you and you're relating to them and all these things. You get all those little voices in your head that try to tear you down too. But it's really important to stay confident in yourself and know that you know what you're doing is what you're supposed to do, and don't allow outside voices to mess you up in any way, because you can really get distracted by that. But yeah, manifest your life. We all do it. We do it if we know we're doing it or not. But it's really important to know that your desires are really there for a reason.
Brittany, I know you must know something about positive self-talk, right?
Most
And
definitely.
affirmations. Tell us
Most
a little bit about your experiences.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to be around Nike for the past 17 years. So I've been able to do some cool projects with them. The last one I recently did was Off-White with Virgil. And it was pretty cool to be able to, bring that out. And we actually did stuff in some rubber dunks that had nothing to do with track and field, but it was the part of them respecting the great athletes that we had in our sport. That seems to get misconstrued, like Flojo, and I was Flojo in the Off-White brand. So look at me, I ain't got to wear no nails, but Flojo had the long nails and all the jewelry. So it was pretty cool concept to be around Nike and how they kind of show respect for our sport, because sometimes if I tell y'all we have world championships every 2 years, you'll look at me crazy, like I thought you only just had the Olympics. Like, don't nobody know we have world championships and things like that, and how many great athletes we had in our sport. So I've been fortunate with Nike, and also been able to do some things with Apple. When they have new iPads or something like that, they're trying to video cameras, show off their new camera systems they put every year out. So it was cool to be able to work with them.
I love hearing, of course, we love hearing from the creators and what their perspectives has been. But the beauty of this panel, again, is that we have these multiple perspectives. So I would love to hear from one of our brand representatives. Please tell us how do you guys at NYX approach working with influencers? Especially, I think something that I also heard is the just dynamic multifacetedness of these individuals. They are not just a skin color. They are not just an athlete or a beauty, blogger or anything else. We're all multidimensional. So how do you take that into account?
Yeah, I can say that working for the Knicks brand, since its inception, it was one of the only brands working with influencers. That's how they started. They were all about community first, influencer first, and it's truly in the DNA of what the brand does. Every strategy we lead, it's from the influencer perspective. We reach out to the community. I can't even tell you, I've been on Knicks and I call it like it's not a moving train, it's a moving rocket ship because of that. Because we listen to our influencers and their audiences, and we pivot. You would be so amazed by how we pivot entire social media strategies that took months in a day just because we're reacting to the audience, to our community, and it's genuinely what we do, and we genuinely care about that. So we have our ear to the streets, as I like to say, always listening to how the community is responding, what they're talking about, and adjusting our strategy and our outreach in that way. And it's almost instant. So I truly love that about the brand, and it speaks to me. And as a Black woman, like, I always find it difficult to answer that question because it's like, this is me. These are my people. This is what we do. And so I love the fact that Knicks gives women of color a seat at the table to tell their own stories. It's not anything that we have to make up. It's what means everything to me, and we make sure that as a brand we address that for all of the people that are behind the scenes. Make sure we all feel seen and heard, and our communities are spoken for.
I love that too because I will clap it up. Yes, that part. I will say our good sis Goddess Riviera was intended to be hosting today's panel. She's lost her voice, so I don't know what y'all got up to before I came in town. But she did speak to how important, even within Twitter, the importance of these conversations with the cultures, with the communities. Before you act, speak with the audience first and determine if you even need to be having a conversation in that space or if you're welcome in that space. So I love that as Knicks has that just embedded in your DNA and your approach. And I think I'd love also to hear from the strategic side. What about when those conversations get held? We all live and work in very corporate environments, and sometimes our ideas are not always, the thing that gets approved, but how do you continue to push for the audiences that we're representing, the Black creators specifically?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Even before coming to Triller, I did research, and I saw that they have this initiative for the Assembly of Black Creators, and it was really important for me as a Black woman, as someone who's created content myself, to be a part of a company that is intentional. And I think that's really important, and that's what I feel in the support. I'm not just saying this because my boss is sitting right here, but I am constantly, I'm constantly being supported in the fact that when we're talking about working with brands, we are saying, is this authentic and genuine to the voices and the actual audience that you're looking to reach? And so, I think the creators can speak into it themselves. We're never coming to them and asking them to do something that would be out of context or that would not feel genuine and real. And so even when working with the talent team who's back there and they're going out and they're recruiting, it's very intentional what we do at Triller. And so I think to be able to bring that and to bring my voice in, I was even saying that during my interview, I'm like, so will I be able to create ideas? Because I'm that girl that you're creating content for. So can I speak into that? And they were like, we would love for you to do that. And so knowing that you have a community that embraces you, even if they have a different perspective or that's not the lived experience for them, but they want to create more opportunities for those that live in that world, I think it's really been powerful to me to be a part of Triller for that.
Yeah, all of that. Even pre-Group Black, when I was at Popeyes, we actually worked with the Assembly of Black Creators, and that was really exciting for us, and I knew that was...
The whole world on, we was going crazy over some chicken sandwiches.
Yes, and the hottie sauce. Miss it, bring it back. And I think really it's all in the brief. I think about this all the time, and what the creators just spoke about is like really listening to them, right? And I think as a brand marketer myself, I love a brief. I'm like, let's stick to it, but you can't always stick to it, and that's like where the nuanced conversations come in, and having people like Whitley and Lana on the teams on the brand side to like really be like, let's have a conversation with this creator sent to 100 people. And if Candace wants to talk about manifestation, like she can do it, but it takes the extra time and the extra understanding of the culture and also the creators we're working with and the people they're serving. And I think sometimes on the brand side, and I can speak in my past life on that, it can be hard because, it's numbers. It's like, we want 20 creators, we want 100 creators, and they're going to talk about that, and this is the brand message, but it's not that simple because we want it to resonate, and we don't want to just use them for their following, we want to use them for their voice. So that's always a kind of a toggle, but I do think more of these conversations are going to help kind of people on the brand side and also all of us understand that it's a conversation and we want the content to actually seem like it was created with intention and not just like I read a brief and I repeated the bare message and I showed the product the way I was asked to. But like, how is this product or brand in your life and how is that going to help the people that follow you believe it?
So I've heard Apple does it right, Under Armour does it right, NYX does it right, Triller does it right, Group Black does it all the way right.
All we do is right.
But I know there's been some instances where maybe someone got it wrong, and I'd love to hear again from y'all's perspectives. It's not really, we're not meant to tear anyone down, right? This is a positive space.
Most recently, actually, I had a huge campaign going on this summer, and I was contracted out, big marketing campaign, all these things. But just behind the scenes, there were some things that I just didn't align with morally, and I think about what my sisters would think. I have 4 sisters. I'm the only boy, and also to be able to sit up here with all these strong, beautiful black women. This is amazing. So I think putting this together is awesome, and I think that's just what you have to think of. If I take something now, I'm thinking, how is this going to look? How is this going to affect me 3 years down the road? It's great. I can't and I don't want to be aligned with anything that's going to, with what's coming out here. So, I'm going to walk away. There's going to be something else. And I think the core of it is just you can't compromise your morals and your character and your integrity for any dollar amount. And that's something that people do constantly. But once you start going down that road, it's really, really hard to come back from. And I'm not even saying from a marketing perspective, it's at your core. And, I think even though we're in a digital space, you can never lose sight of who you are and your identity and what you stand for. So that's kind of how I approach business, life, just everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an influencer for about 8 years, and in the beginning I did make mistakes. I signed a 1-year contract without getting paid the whole year, and then later on finding out all the other influencers were being paid. Yeah, and that was really heart-wrenching, because I know my value, and then I've had to walk away from brands too because of the attitude, with people that work on the team, just giving me attitude for no reason. And I rather protect my peace than to be straining myself to finish a project. I rather let it go. I've had to leave management even because not feeling like I was valued and feeling like I was lower than the other influencers, So there's just some things you just have to say no to. And then also, I think one of the kind of funny things was during the Black Lives Matter movement, all the brands reaching out to me and having to say no to a lot of them because I knew why they were reaching out, and I saw how, how they did work with some black creators, and then now you don't see any black creators on their platforms anymore, just getting that one black creator to make them seem involved. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't feel like that's genuine to myself and to them. So you just have to stay true to yourself in this industry, in any industry, really.
We got a meeting.
Yeah.
We know that sound. You're good.
You just have to stay true to yourself and stay confident in that, because when one door closes, there's 700,000 more doors that are going to open for you. It just takes that one, the universe is like, we just need you to say no to that one to see if you're really ready for that big project that's coming up.
Yes. I think you've also touched on something, and I will honestly feel strong enough to say it's probably happened to every black person in this room today. 2020, when everyone realized they needed that black representation, and all of a sudden they were able to find the creatives. I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought y'all couldn't find black talent. So just the complexity to know that now is your time, but also how did that make you feel? Can you expand on that from the panel?
Yeah, again, that made me feel really upset. I think also the people that started following me during that time. I mean, I think I had the most engagement during that time. I had people messaging me, following me, interacting with my stuff like none other before on Instagram solely. And I don't know where they are today. You know, it wasn't a genuine follow. It wasn't a genuine ask to work with me. It wasn't a genuine partnership. So therefore, things that aren't genuine can't last. So, you know, during that time, I mean, it was very inspiring and we were moving through. But I think a lot of brands use that time to manipulate and not really be genuine again. And it was sad. To me, it's sad to think about how brands did that so freely and didn't keep up with it. You know, I don't, like, the brand I have in my head, they don't have any black creators they're working with since. So I just hate that. And there's really, the only thing we can do is just not work with them, you know, and go pivot somewhere else where you are appreciated, where you are valued. Because those brands, they don't matter. You know, and you stop using their products and all that stuff. So
I think that's where the title of this panel comes into play.
Yeah.
Culture vultures. By definition, that is taking it, I mean, I'm making up the definition, by the way. But, you know, this is Celeste's definition, is just taking advantage of a culture and their moment. Especially, keep in mind, we're talking about the death of an individual, right? And now we're having to transcend and talk about the things that are important to you as creators, but solely based on a specific event. So, you know, we just have to be conscious as brands and brand stewards to make sure that we're always coming in authentically, which I love, Lana, you saying that NYX has started from that place. And that's where authenticity begins. It's embedded in your DNA. Maybe you can share how you approach makers and you know, with the world on their shoulders. They're representing black culture. So how do you approach these creators with that in mind, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, and offering a little extra with my perspective on that. I am someone that walked away from a company that I have been with for a very long time during the BLM movement, even though we know that that's our everyday life, because I wasn't seen, I wasn't heard. So it's one thing to be overly approached and oversaturated with those approaches, and then to be completely ignored, and we're just not going to say anything about this. We're not going to approach our employees. And as someone, especially at the time, I was running a brand, ironically, that was black, but it wasn't black owned, but it was a company where we were speaking to black women. And to know that I wasn't seen, I was not heard, my people weren't seen, weren't heard, you know, the amount of pressure and responsibility you feel on the brand side when you are a black woman with a seat at the table, and I emphasize black woman, it is insane. And so to feel that pressure and to know I could do nothing about it, it was no other option for me to, it was no other option than walking away. I gotta go get away from this because this is going to disturb my mental health, who I am, my identity, etc. And since I've been at NYX, like from the door, I have been seen, heard, and I just appreciate that. It's never a question. I never enter a room and feel like I'm an alien. As we know, many of us do, you know, us black in corporate America. And it's never been a question, even down to our partnership with Triller. You know, everybody knows about the Forbes article that came out that highlighted top earning creators, and the fact that not a single black creator was on that list, while the followings and the engagements were comparable, if not, you know, competing with that of those who were highlighted. I brought that to management. I'm like, we got to do something about this, especially being an influencer first brand. The second I brought it up, it went all the way up to the top, and here we are with this partnership with Triller, making sure that we are pledging our commitment to black creators. It was that simple. You know? And that's how it should be. That's how it should always be. So I feel that responsibility. I feel that pressure. And, you know, I love working for a brand that listens to that. And it's never questioned, never challenged. Because it's what all brands should be doing.
Speaking of where the money resides, let's go ahead and transition to the financial portion of this conversation. And in truth, speaking to that Forbes article, the insane disparity of financial compensation when compared to some of our white counterparts in the space. What if either of you creators in particular can share, I'd love to even hear more from you about entering into a contract and then finding that you were the only one that was unpaid in that time.
And I was the only black person too. You know, it was 5 females, a contract for a year, and I was the only black girl, and I wasn't paid. And I didn't know at the time that influencers were being paid like 30, 40, 50, 60,000 for something like that. It was like one Instagram post a month. And I just thought, you know, I mean, this was 8 years ago. I would never do this before, but I just thought that the product exchange was like the natural thing that happened all the time, you know, but when I found out that all the other influencers were being paid, I did reach out to them, and they were like, well, that wasn't something you said in the beginning of the contract. But I did ask.
How did you find out that they were being paid and you were not?
I just asked. I asked the other influencers. I was like, are you guys getting paid? Like, I don't know what came over me. I just was, you know, it was in my head. I just wanted to ask. And they were all like, yeah, of course. You're not? And I was like, no. But I always tell people, you know, never let yourself get to that point where you feel like, oh, I should just do this in order to get exposure or anything like that, because you are always valued your time and money. And when you're getting paid, you feel more creative. You know, it's true. You know, you feel like you can really do it. When you're not being paid, it's harder to do the project. For me, in my experience, it's like, I may love the brand, I may love the products, but when I'm getting paid, I feel like I want to do so much better, you know, because they see the respect with you, and you want to show them that respect as well. Yeah, you're a professional, but yeah, you have to ask, like you said, you have to ask, and you know, if they say no, then just walk away. I mean.
You know, just from a like financial perspective, you know, I've always taken the approach. First and foremost, I want to work with like brands, clients, just people, human beings. But I want to build a legit, long-term, like strong relationship. And you know, I think like obviously the financial aspect is very, very important. But one of the things I've done, and again, this is just me and unique to my experience, is I've really tested and looked at the overall value of, you know, this relationship on like, what are these brands, what are these clients willing to like support and back that I'm interested in? You know, if I'm involved with a philanthropic endeavor, are they going to put money behind that? You know, because you can't always quantify, and I understand there's certain budgets, but if you just understanding the nuances of business and, you know, where some of these budgets go, there's more there, right? So I think like, you know, I've taken an approach like, what can these brands and these clients do to support the initiatives that I'm very, very passionate about? You know, Michelob Ultra has been a partner of mine for 4 years, and they like have allowed me to work with their corporate team, help produce festivals. But one of the coolest things, like during the pandemic, I didn't even have to seek this out. They said, especially we talk about George Floyd, they're like, what can we do? How can we do it? Not only do we want to provide finances to, you know, but how can we enhance the messaging? You know, and Triller's done an amazing job. And we talk about like truly being like real about it, and like, I've been, you know, first came in contact with Triller in June of last year, and the experience, the people, you know, behind the scenes, and also even just being down in Atlanta for the Assembly of Black Creators and like supporting local businesses, like it's, you know, it's unbelievable. So I look at finance, and I look at wealth, and I look at, you know, the value of relationships beyond just sometimes the, you know, what's going in the account. Obviously you want to, you know, secure the bag and everything. but like, how can you support the communities, the people, and the initiatives that are important to me? Because that's the stuff that's going to go for years and years and years, and it just makes the brand rooted as well in those regions, or those different areas.
I'm gonna come from an athlete's perspective. So for me, I'm contracted under Nike, so there's certain people, or if they reach out to me, so I can't communicate with obviously another clothing brand. I can't communicate with a sock brand or any type of eyewear. So for me, what I would have to do is, a lot of people like to get athletes and give us free stuff. Oh, we'll give you a free mattress if you post us. We'll give you this if you post us. Oh, try my new insoles for your shoes, and they'll look for us to do things for free. But I came to the approach. I thought I won my first Olympic medal. I was like, y'all, it says OLY behind my name, so you're gonna have to pay me, give me some stock, give me something. I have a 14-year-old son, so I'm trying to build a legacy. So therefore, you're gonna have to give me something in return. So that has worked pretty well, knowing that I got the OL behind my name. It's nothing is for free.
You wearing gold on your chest, so you got like a medal. At least come for that.
No, well, first of all, like we talked upstairs, which my question was, what is it like to have to perform in that one moment? Because, a lot of other sports, they perform day in and day out, but that is like your one moment and what you go through. And I thought it was a beautiful answer. But look, we couldn't be more proud. And I think that the challenge is that, and what I wanted to really talk about was, when we're talking about the financial, that is really the crux of what we're facing today. That is really the issue. So one, if you look at female sports, most of them are black athletes, but even taking that aside, you look at NCAA. So the women's NCAA tournament, if you look at them just from influence, just from the number of people who actually want to follow those athletes and view them, are twice of the men. But yet the pay differential is almost 10x. And so that's what we're talking about, is how do we really balance financial inclusion? And what's crazy is that we're here because a man had to die in order for us to be having these conversations. Let's just be brutally honest, right? And to that point, yeah, when it happened, all my white friends found me. They were like, yo, you're my black friend. What's going on here? I'm like, man, I got too many calls to answer right now. I gotta parse it out. But the reality is that when we started Assembly, the reason why it happened was because everybody was telling us, well, black creators, we don't know how to work with them, we don't know how to The Assembly, that single goal of the Assembly was the business of being a creator. Let's make sure that we take out all this bullshit. There's nothing you guys we're going to make sure that all these creators are prepared to take capital. Now that we're ready to take capital, show me the money. Let's move money. And I will say, underpaid, underrepresented, not given credit, all that stuff, good. I can allow you to apologize to us, but what I can't allow you is to continue doing what you've done before and not, give us the due that we're owed. But the other side of that, and look, I feel very proud about what Triller did, stepping up and saying, you know what, all 200 creators, we are actually going to give you monthly contracts, but more than that is we're going to give you ownership in the actual platform. We are giving you some ownership. That's the thing that has to change. And then when you look at on the group black side, like, just so you guys understand the number, 0.5% of all media dollars go into black-owned media organizations. So let's just say that we deserved at least the amount of people who actually exist. That's 12%. So there's a huge gap just between there and 12%. But then when you look at every company that's committed and pledged, and I just want to say very thank you to Nix. I want to say thank you to P&G, who's not here, for all the work that you guys are doing. Maybe I'm lying. So sorry, maybe they are. Okay, oops. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Shit. Yeah, the team's going to get me later. So that's why I haven't said anything, because Celeste is doing all the work. I'm like, I don't even need to do this. But there's $25 billion that have been committed and pledged over the next 5 years, year over year. The reality is that maybe if you're lucky, when you look at the ownership, it's abysmal right now, like actual black ownership. And the thing that's crazy is that it's when you're black owned, they assume that you're black targeted. And it's like, no, wait a second. Wait. Viacom can own BET, but we can't own MTV? Well, I don't understand that, so we're going to change that model. But the reality is that there's maybe $1 billion of inventory, maybe if you're lucky, but really in the system only about $200 million transact. So the discrepancy between $200 million and $25 billion. And so what we have to do is make sure that we create systems and models that actually move that capital to those and also shift ownership. The one thing I want to share with this audience, and this is it, is that I'm just very nervous that while we're committed, you know what, I can't eat a commitment, but cash works a lot better. But while we're committed, as the world changes and as we face different financial pressures, are those organizations still going to be committed? And that's the thing that I think all of us need to focus on, because at the end of the day, we know that equitable ownership and a true transfer of capital is what's going to change. The voices that have been shaping culture have been underrepresented from a payment and from a in front of the screen point of view. And I'm done, Celeste. It's all you. I apologize.
I mean, thank you. Honestly, also my takeaway just from what you've said right there is, frankly, black culture is popular culture. Full stop. Right? There is no black audience. Like, everything that this group is making today is influencing mass culture, okay? And then secondarily, this isn't a black problem we're facing. This isn't a black creator problem. This is a societal problem, and we all are able to impact it. Yes, we are fighting on our own accord, and we will do that every single day, but it's not a singular fight. In fact, it takes the community and allyship and continued just conversation, because and understanding that this is not singular to one group of people. It's actually, it impacts our overarching world. And so the more that we can all engage and attack this problem, the more all boats will rise, if you will. So please continue to tell your friends and your partners what you're making compared to, and make sure they're making that too. And look at your contracts, look at your salary bands, and make sure that your teams are also representing an equal distribution of finance. So, I said my part.
I just wanted to say, like, as I was just listening, and and this is more so from like to the brands, to some of the corporate companies and everything. And you talked about like having the Olympics like behind your name, and I think with social media and I think with digital, sometimes people get grouped into a category based on following and reach. But like, I think it's so important to understand like the value and the history and what someone did to get to this point in their life today, and especially understanding the difficulties, not only just with their craft, but even societally, in like the battles and the struggles. And I think about that very frequently. I think about like from background as an athlete, like all these other things growing up. Just I see too frequently where brands are devaluing not only like black creators, but just in general, and they're not taking into accountability everything that's been built up to this, this stage. And like everyone up here, we're black, we're educated, we're accomplished, we're diverse, and I think that has to be really, really. Oh, and now I'm a lifesaver. But it's important.
Little set change real quick. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you finished your thought, Dale, but
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like, I think a lot of times because of social and digital strategy and just everything, like people are grouped into one category and they're looking at a reach and a following, but there's history, there's work, there's less than 1% of the world, less than 0.5% has done what you've done. And that's something that will live on forever. That's a legacy that, the training, the knowledge. And my biggest thing is just saying that, like, you got to really see someone's value, but in order to do that, you have to understand their story and have empathy and, like, be real about, like, what's gotten them to this point. And that's what separates, one person from the next.
don't at Kim Kardashian now. I said it. On that note, I think we're going to open it up to some questions from the audience.
Thank you. All my jobs. I was supposed to run the mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. This has been really inspiring to see. And I'll preface this by saying I'm old, So I've got 3 children, and one of the things I'm always interested about, particularly with my 11-year-old daughter who likes to create content in her own way, is there a moment, is there incidents, are there people who've kind of inspired you in your formative years in order to do what you do and have the confidence to actually be able to say to yourself, I'm not going the traditional route, I'm looking to create on my own?
I mean, there's so many people. Yes, there's so many people. I can't really name on the top of my head. But yeah, I think when I was starting, it was real new. I think Instagram was 2 years old. And I was told about Instagram through a friend, and I only one book a month. And yeah, I just try to keep myself informed on different elements of manifestation and things like that. But in this industry, for me, I do have to find inspiration a lot because my content is always like pouring into other people, and I have to remind myself that I need to be poured into, because when your cup is not full, you can't really pour into someone else's. So I have to balance that pretty well by researching and getting inspired by other people.
On this end, I mean, I love The Rock. I think Dwayne Johnson, but I just think like he's obviously one of the most followed people on all the social media. But when I think about like how I want to carry myself and live life and have fun and just be myself, that's kind of what I look at from a social media strategy and standpoint. As much as I'm used to digital, I try to be as present and like as myself as possible. Most people that know me, like what you see is what you get, and I just try to share that and just be positive. I train all the time. I just share natural things that are within my day to day. But I do believe like, if it's inspiring something, if I am at a loss or I don't really have the creative flow that I typically do, honestly, I just try to share someone else's story. And I think that's like, a really cool thing, and enhance them or just collab with someone, because we don't always have it, and sometimes you got to borrow that creativity, the energy, the focus, the support. So, I lean on other people for that as well.
I kind of lean on other people too, because I kind of do a lot of fitness type things. Coming from an athlete, like just doing a lot of marathons and trying to engage with kids. I work with a lot of kids, so my thing is to inspire them to understand that they can be better than what they are the next day. It only takes 1% to be better a day. So my content is more so based around inspiring and getting the youth involved more in sports.
Go for it. We have time for some more questions. Anyone else?
You're also allowed to call in the audience.
I'll go back here.
Hi, I'm Susan from Group Black, and I'm really excited to be here and listen from you and learn from you all.
First of all, she is the Susan from Group Black.
No, so I'm just curious because we talk about this internally often and with brands. Like, you guys are building your own companies and you're creating this like incredible content. So I'm curious, like, measurement and like your audiences. Do you know a lot about your audiences? Do you spend time with like measuring that, which is something that seems to be becoming really important to brands? And how do you do that?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of get off the Instagram analytics, and I try to engage more on making sure, like, I know there's a lot more little kids are getting on Instagram and things like that, or trying to find different videos to get better every day now, because kids got a lot of energy, so they want to be big. I got a 14-year-old, so I know how he is right now. So I try to use those analytics and and that's how I do my content based off of that. Sometimes it'd be a lot of more women too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am aware of my audience, and I guess, I try to just understand that. I don't necessarily let it fully dictate my creative approach, but it's definitely something that I'm very in tune to. And when you look at social media and just these digital platforms, it's important to know that, because if you are sharing your message or you're putting something out there, you want it to be received. So, and every platform's a little bit unique. You know, one is not like the other. So I think in general, it's always important to just have an understanding of you know, like who's following you, who's seeing your content, and how it's received.
I do most of my content on YouTube and TikTok, so my audience is really young. A lot of them are like under the age of 18, and again, but that doesn't like affect me on what I post. But I try to just knowing that they're in school and stuff like that, I don't post at the time when they're in school, you know, things like that, you know. Yeah, timing, and just knowing that they're younger, I can talk about, you know, how to manifest good grades and how to manifest your crush, you know, things like that, and they love that stuff. They love.
Teach me.
Yeah. Yeah, they love it. They love it. So, I mean, it makes it fun knowing the ages and, like, gender and things like that. But I wouldn't say that it makes me want to change or anything like that.
I think there was another.
Hey guys, great job. My name's Charles. I work with Brittany. And one question I just had for all you guys was like, how, for me, like as a manager, I've had to experience like with brands, like explaining to them why my black creators engagement's going down because they're posting things that they socially believe in, that they're passionate about. How has that affected any of y'all in your career as a creator, like with like the things that have been happening in our society and around the world with how these platforms shadow ban?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a real thing. I know like certain content that hasn't like performed well, or you know, the biggest eye opener is, especially in the last few years, the backlash or the messages and the things that I get when I post something. You know what I mean? Or I grew up in the Midwest, you know, and you know, people are like, oh, you know, what do you know about black culture? You know, you grew up in small town Midwest. You know, I know. My mom's side disowned her because of biracial marriage. The only family that I've ever known is my black side. My, you know, uncles are authors, academics. Like I know my culture, you know, my family history dating back to the slave trade through and through. So like, you know, I was very, very surprised at the type of like some of the things that people would say when I'd share about the George Floyd, when I've talked about brutality and experiencing that growing up, and like things that these are like real issues. But that being said, if the engagement goes down, like I'm not putting out that message for likes or follows. Like I'm putting out that message because it's important to be put out there. So if a brand can't see or understand some of those things, you know, they probably got to rethink their strategy, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you know, come to New York and try to get a taxi, you'll know how black you are. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, let's just be brutally honest. And it's not a thing. It's wrong. And that's the bottom line, is that you have platforms that have made money on the back of creators. Let's just be brutally honest. Like, the creators have received the smallest amount, and these guys have made the largest amount. And at the same time, they believe that they have the right to filter conversations that are real conversations that are happening. I think it's horrendous what happened during that period. I mean, look, I happen to have been very blessed to work at an organization where that was the last thing we were going to do. In fact, we pushed those conversations forward because those are real conversations. But the only way that changes is if we say something about it. Like, we have to take them to task. Like, you are not allowed to judge what is socially appropriate on your platform if you are also going to make money off the back of us when you feel like we're socially right. And so I actually think it's a much bigger issue than is really being talked about personally. But that's just my thoughts. So
I think also, well, for me, I had to pivot because Instagram was just getting on my nerves, you know, with stuff like that. I mean, the engagement is so low now, and I don't know if it has to do with my political beliefs or what, you know. So I just pivoted to YouTube and TikTok and things like that, you know, video content where videos are really thriving, you know, Triller, you know, things like that. So that's where I can freely be whoever I want, because I think it's just different in the fact that there's only one way to find content. So you're not like on Instagram, you have stories, you have the explore feed, and you have your own feed, but you don't see new people all the time unless you actually search on the explore feed or whatever. But on other platforms like video platforms, there's only one area to see new content, and you can pop up there. There's so much more opportunity. So if my following doesn't agree with me, there's still millions and millions and millions of other people on the platform that will see my content too, who will agree with me. So therefore, my engagement isn't going down or up. It's staying the same or going even higher. So I just think Instagram is really hard. I mean, for me as a Black creator, it's always been that way. On Instagram, it's been really hard to grow and keep your engagement. It's always fluctuating, and I have no answers for Instagram. So.
Mark, Zuck, are you around?
Yeah, where you at, Mark? We need to talk.
Yeah, so for me, I've traveled worldwide, so you know if something happens big in the United States, say like let's say the Colin Kaepernick thing, a lot of athletes, track athletes did the whole "I stand with Cap" type thing. I was part of the Olympics where one of our athletes, she raised her fist on the podium, and she got in trouble. She almost lost her medal just for doing something like that. So. It's kind of tough because if we were to post anything like that, a lot of brands probably wouldn't back us because of the situation. Nike did a really good job with it. Like they gave us a lot of posts that we could put on our social media, but under the comments you can just see, like me being from a worldwide stage, a lot of backlashes from other countries just calling. I mean, I done got called monkey, I done got called a nigga, I done got called everything from other countries. So it kind of puts us where a lot of athletes felt like they shouldn't even speak out at all. Now I'm not that type. I was on Twitter going off, but but it's just crazy how something that's big for us is so small to the world, and there are a lot of small-minded people in the world, and it hurts as an athlete you can cheer for us when we're doing good in the stands, but as soon as we try to be for our people, you're running away from us. So and my engagement went down, but I don't care. But that's kind of what happens in the sports.
And can I just add too, I think it's important with what Triller's been doing as far as putting pledge dollars towards Black creators and making sure that we reinforce that they have platforms that are worthy of engaging. Kind of like what you said, Dale, like as far as their stories and what you're saying and the authenticity. So even we take it very serious when we're working with brands like P&G and Nix and collaborating on campaigns that are going to be authentic and genuine. And we even try to help steer and navigate, hey, this may not feel right. And what is the goal that you're trying to get from your campaign, and how can we assist you in doing that to where it makes sense for the brand, but also it makes sense for the creators because it's a partnership. And so that's why I love working at Triller, because we get to do that and be intentional, and I love sitting in on those meetings and having brainstorms, and then even having grace for brands and teaching, because it's still a business for them as well. But saying, yeah, you can still get the power behind this campaign if we just kind of tweak and navigate. So it's been a really awesome experience, and you all are very, very amazing and talented. So can we just give it up for our creators, because they're just like so dope.
One more thing that with NYX/L'Oreal, we have tools that sees all of these things. You would be amazed by the things. Anytime we work with a creator, there's a process we have to go through, and it pulls up everything to check the health of your account. And I will say that we see that. We see what's low engaging, and 90% of the time, it's these things that you posted that have, a stance. And it sucks, but it doesn't deter us from working with you. So I just don't want creators to be afraid to speak out, to say how you feel, because brands see that. And, if you have the right people behind the brand, that's not going to turn them away.
So basically, NYX is open for business.
Yes, open for business.
I will just build on that one more time, and also it's an encouragement and invitation to each of us who have the privilege of, manning brands or entities with power and having the power to change the systems. So if we have a data or analytics system that is saying, well, so-and-so's not doing so hot, take a look at what they're really talking about. Take a look why maybe the engagement has changed, or it's become, more personal, and maybe it's not for everyone, and that's even better. So just take a look at our systems. I think even that's something we do. I haven't talked about our studio at all, but as a production studio, the first thing I did when I sat at the helm was say, everyone's asking me for a director's roster. Fuck that. I looked at every director roster that's, in our competitive space, and they all look very homogenous, very similar. And guess what? All their swipe, not all, I'm going to give them some credit. A lot of their swipe is coming from the culture. So let's work with the individuals. Let's not just subset our creators into specific niche projects. Let's give them the larger scale opportunities, the brand campaign scale opportunities. And that's how our studio is approaching this project. So again, encourage you all to break the systems and find the ways to really make change.
One last question? I don't know. Make it good, though.
So first and foremost, great job, everybody on stage. Y'all are awesome. I believe the title of the panel was Culture Vultureism. I might have made that last part up. But I'm a big believer in the fact that it's not just the creative or the creators, but the boardrooms in which the decisions are being made is why a lot of that occurs. And there's been a lot of talk about George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement being the genesis and where a lot of these conversations are happening. And you notice at that time a lot more brands started looking for black creators to help them push their message out. So I'm curious how you guys, because again, representation matters, and a lot of these boardrooms where these campaigns are being come up with, there's not that representation. So I'm curious how important it is for y'all to have that alignment when you're finding brands to work with, and if that doesn't exist, understanding, I believe Dale, you said securing the bag was the most important thing, but understanding, or is an important thing, understanding that is important. Have you ever been put in a position where you have to walk away from that because there's a clear misalignment between the message and what the company is actually showing they believe in within their four walls?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that. I've experienced that with agencies, and it's funny because this is kind of twofold, right? So from an athlete's perspective, but also being black, and I was working with a brand. I was actually sitting down with their corporate team, helping them really ideate about strategy and all those things. And I remember one of the people on the board, I'm not going to dive into names, but they're like, wow, you're so articulate, you're so well spoken, it's just very surprising. And I was like, I go, I mean, I'm very, very educated. I have two major, you know what I mean? I've been through life. And that was one of the first moments where I really was like, I mean, this is how they're really thinking about me and other creators or talent in this space. And I talked to them a little bit, talked to their boss and everything. I didn't, make it a huge scene, but at that point, I stepped away from working with them. And it wasn't as much as I wasn't pissed off or really offended, but I was like, damn, this is really, really happening. And I think people don't know how to approach it. They feel uncomfortable just being around someone that's black in a space that's, typically someone is not seen. So, that's been the case. And then also, I alluded to it earlier. There's just a few things morally that I've worked with some people on. And at this stage in my life, I want to create. I want to build a great life. I want to be able to support my family. But odds are if I'm putting something out on social or I'm working on, that project's not going to make or break me. And I've worked hard to build business behind the scenes and have other things, or have skin in the game, equity and stuff like that, because I never want to be controlled or leveraged by anyone, any brand or anything. And that's been my biggest fear in life. I never want to be leveraged and controlled in that way. And I think everyone has to kind of think about that as they're making these decisions.
I think that's the point that untalked about reality of what we face on a consistent basis. And we're working on a thing called Shadow Talks. And the whole reason why is because, I sat through all this stuff on George Floyd. Every company said, hey, we want all of our black employees to stand up and tell us how you really feel and what's going on in the organization. And I'm like, there's nobody on this panel that's going to tell you the truth that works at your company. They're just not going to, dude. Like, I'm just letting you know that right now. It's not going to happen. They might give you 30%, maybe 40%, but there's no way. And so we're working on a thing where everybody's covered and they can actually speak their truth. But I'm just going to give you a quick example. This happened a week ago. So I was asked to speak at a pretty major CPG company. And first of all, they weren't even paying my full fee, but I was nice. It was the black group. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll take a... And then I get a call and they're like, my manager, she's like, I got to ask you something She said, look, they were very sensitive about this, but they want to know, can you groom your beard and your hair? And I was like, you're right, because I'm living the hobo life. You probably are right. But I don't know if you're allowed to ask that. Like, what? In this day and age, that's what you're going to ask? But that's the... And by the way, the person who's hiring me is like, when I left corporate America, I was much higher than they are. And it's like, how is that the... And so, but that's the problem, is that no matter what's accomplished, there's still that stigmatism that we're seeing. And that's the challenge that is the unspoken and that nobody really talks about and you don't experience unless you are in those circles. And so I appreciate you sharing that because, you're articulate. Yeah, motherfucker, I'm fucking articulate, motherfucker. I went to fucking Harvard, bitch. I had the same thing happen. We had a lawyer come in from Twitter, black lawyer coming from Twitter, our lawyer from Mondelez. He was like, look, this is not how you should do it. She's like, well, I don't know where you went to school. He said, Harvard, motherfucker. I went to fucking Harvard. But that's the thing, dude. And, anyway, whatever. Sorry. I think we might have time for one more question, or we don't. Whatever. All right, so let's give a round of applause. Celeste, thank you. The wonderful. Okay, there's one more question. Okay. Don't, you guys gonna clap again?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. That was an absolutely great panel. I think that it was just so great to hear from the creator perspective. That's my bread and butter, is pairing brands with creators like yourself. And something that I see a lot from the brand perspective is, brands are like, oh, we want 75% diversity, but we want to make sure they don't do any political posts. And we also want to make sure they don't cuss. And we also want to make sure that they don't talk about certain things, that a lot of people of culture, exactly, not too black, but just black enough to get this message out. And my question is always like, okay, why are you looking to target diversity? What's your reason? What message are you trying to get to? What audience are you trying to reach? And why? And that's a question that they seem to never be able to answer. So I think there's a really missing due diligence on the brand side as well to really ask yourself, why am I targeting diversity? Why am I targeting creators of color? Is it just to hit a number so you can look a certain way on socials, or is it because you're trying to, once again, contribute to this generational wealth that we're trying to rebuild and we're trying to help creators do so? So I want to ask you guys, what is your advice? I think we have a lot of brand marketers in here as well that can learn from this, but what is your advice in that sense, knowing that a lot of the times it is just a number that they're trying to hit? How do we make this more authentic? How do we make it more real for this to be a natural partnership?
The longer the partnership, the better. Like, if it's just one post, I don't like that, I'm just that one post to fill in that you need to do every time, something happens, But if it's a longer partnership, it's 3 months, we want to see content from you, we want to collaborate with you, we want to build a relationship with you, using those words is more comforting than just saying, oh, we saw your Instagram, we saw your TikTok and whatever, we would love to work with you, It's all about the wording. I want to say also, after you said L'Oreal, because I remember Nyx is with L'Oreal, that is another brand that I loved working with. I got to sign a 1-year contract, which was a good one, with L'Oreal. And they were so great about me being myself and partnering with them. And I was a L'Oreal ambassador for the year, so I got to do my spirituality, but also talk about how I do my affirmations while I'm doing my makeup, while I'm doing my skincare, things like that, while using their products. It was a natural relationship. So when it becomes natural, that's when the creator really can thrive.